What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. We got a good one today. I'm super pumped. As you saw in the title, we're gonna be starting this thing today. Like I said, I'm very excited. It's a huge milestone. Now, as you've seen over the last 12 months, we have been building this car from the ground up just to show you guys that you can in fact build a pro car in your garage. You really don't need anything special. You just have to have a little knowledge about what you need and a lot of motivation. Now, if you've been keeping up with the series, everything is pretty much done to this point to go ahead and fire this thing up. In the last video, we did all the wiring for our chassis, our ECU, keypads, dashboards, everything is ready to go, and it's just a matter of hitting that starter. But before we can do that, we need to go through the entire car and add fluids to everything, diff, trans, engine, add fuel into the cell, get everything primed, make sure it's all ready to rock, and we'll go ahead and start firing this thing up. So let's go to the back of the car, we'll jump right into it. So the first thing I want to do is start with our cooling system. I have a bunch of distilled water. I'm not too sure how much it's going to take. I would like to think at least like 6-7 gallons maybe, but we're going to go ahead and start filling it up. If you guys watched the video a while back where we did the cooling system, I put caliper bleeders at every high point to assist in bleeding and hopefully make it nice and easy. That seems to be everyone's big dilemma, is bleeding their rear radiators and having a hell of a time doing it. So my idea was to put these caliper bleeders at every high point. Now, the water pump is not a high point, but these Davy Craig's pumps, they don't want you to orient them in the position that I have it mounted on the radiator. So I put a bleeder on the top of it so we can prime the air out. Because in theory, if you can get the air out of the pump, no matter what position you have it in, as long as it's primed properly, it'll work just fine. So having that bleeder there allows us to mount it in that position. Ignore the mess here. We have our 2 bleeders up at the top where we'll bleed the air out of this point as well. Now again, in theory, it should work perfectly. So what I'm gonna do is just start dumping some water in until it fills up and stops. I'm gonna go to each caliper, crack it open with a clear hose just into like a empty jug or something, and we'll just go until the air stops. We'll run the pump, turn it off, do it again, and see how it goes. This thing has such good venting, it's actually sitting here spinning like a tornado, just siphoning right in. You can hear the air coming out of it. And we'll go ahead and go to the 2 bleeders in the front and do the same thing. Okay, so now that we've filled up the system, cracked all the bleeders, in theory, most of the air should be out. So I'm going to turn on the water pump right now, bleed it, we'll make sure it stays topped off, let it do its thing, and then I'll crack the bleeders again, see if I get any air out of them, and we'll go from there. So we'll come to the dash here. I'm just tinkering with some backgrounds. This isn't permanent. We will turn on our water pump, see if it works. Now I can feel all of the water rushing through all of this, pretty heavy, which is rad. It's moving some fluid for sure. Guys, I cannot tell you how hyped I am on how perfect and flawless this design was for the rear radiator. I literally filled it up like you guys saw, went to each bleeder one time and cracked it. The back released a ton of air, probably most of the air in the entire system. The 2 fronts, barely anything came out of them. I've ran the water pump 2 or 3 more times for like 20 and 30 seconds. I've cracked the bleeders again. I haven't gotten a single bubble, maybe 1 bubble out of all of it, and that's it. I'm running the system now. Show you again. It's all running perfectly. You feel the water rushing through all the lines. You see the vent for the whole system. constantly bleeding, which it will do 24/7. This system is self-bleeding, so anytime it's running, if there's any kind of air, or once we start driving the car, putting some heat into it, if there is any air bubbles left, it's gonna naturally just bleed itself out into the expansion tank. Hell yeah. Okay, so now that our cooling system is 100% full and bled and leak-free, we're just gonna work our way up. I had just put 1.5 quarts in our G101 dog box. That's all sealed up and full of oil. Now we need to start filling the engine. So this Kevco oil pan is a 6-quart pan, but the dipstick I got with it is a universal dipstick. So I need to set the depth on there so I can properly read how much oil is actually in the engine. So what I'm gonna do is dump 5 quarts in, pull out the dipstick, and see where it's at. And what we want is that 5 quarts to be right at our low mark, because the difference of our low mark and our high mark is 1 quart. So I'm gonna dump exactly 5 quarts in, let it sit for probably 30 minutes or so to make sure everything is drained down to the pan. Then I'm gonna set the depth of our dipstick. With these ones, you actually cut the tube itself, not the dipstick, until it's at the right spot. Then once we have the dipstick set properly at the low mark, we'll throw 1 more quart in, and at which point it should be exactly at the full mark. Okay, so I went ahead and dumped in 5 quarts, and that's gonna be the low mark on our dipstick. So we'll take this out, and I see exactly where it's at. So I'm gonna go ahead and scribe a line there. Maybe I'll drill a little hole. Either way, I'm gonna mark this here, put it back in the pan, and then we're gonna dump in 1 more quart. So we have 6 quarts in our pan. Pull it back out and mark the high mark, so we'll have our low and high point on the dipstick. That way, once we crank it and the engine's running and we fill all the lines and the filter and the AccuSump and everything, when everything's all said and done, we can come back to the dipstick and make sure that our pan is full. Here is quart number 6. And for break-in oil, I'm just using a conventional diesel oil. It's a 15 weight 40, and being a diesel oil, it has a lot of zinc in it, which is great for initial break-in. So that's what we're using. Once we've already ran some heat cycles through it and put a little load on the engine, we'll drain all this out and we'll switch over to a synthetic. All right, so the oil pan is completely full. Like I was saying, obviously the filter and the lines and the cooler and everything is still bone dry. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull the plugs so we don't put a ton of stress on the starter. And we're gonna go ahead and start turning this thing over, see if we can naturally start making some oil pressure. Or if we can't within 30 to 45 seconds, I might have to manually prime the engine. That's a whole separate deal. But let's go ahead and get these plugs out and start cranking it and just see what happens. All right, all the plugs are out. Let's go ahead, hop in, hit the starter, and see if we can start building some oil pressure. All right, we got power on. Oil pressure is displayed right here. Let's see how it goes. All right, so we're building about 43 PSI on the starter, which is fantastic. That's awesome. So now that we have oil pressure, all of our lines, our cooler, everything is full. So I'm gonna go ahead, check our oil level, top it off, and then let's go ahead and add some fuel in this thing, start priming that system. So we have our cooling system 100% done and leak-free. Transmission is full, it's not leaking either. And we have the engine and all the lines and cooler and everything but the AccuSump completely full. It's making about 40 to 44 PSI on the starter. But the only other 2 things that we need to do is fill up our differential. I need to get a couple different gear sets to put in the diff before we put fluid in it. And the last thing that leaves us with is fuel. So we're going to be running E85 in this car. And we've also partnered with Tough Jug this season. They sent us out a handful of their jugs, and these things are badass. And I am very excited to finally get to test one out. They have two different kinds of caps. They have their standard fill, which as you see, it's just a normal neck, but both of the caps are self-vented. So this one you can just stick down into the tank or the filler neck, couple inches. Once the level actually hits this, it cuts itself off and completely stops. Now what they are known for is what they call the ripper cap, which is this right here. And this thing is sweet. It's self-vented, just like their other cap, but it increases the flow by almost 50% over a standard 5-gallon jug. You just stick the end of it into your fuel filler, push down on it, and it will drain extremely fast. So we're actually about to be testing this in just a few minutes. I'm going to be running just pump E85. Here in Florida, specifically in Jacksonville where I'm at, there is 2 pumps right next to my house. Both of them always have a good percentage. I've been running their E85 for the last 4 years. I test it all the time, and not once have I ever seen it under E80. I just went and got another 5 gallons, put it in my tester here, and it's right at E85, actually a little bit higher than E85. Now this isn't the exact surefire way to check your ethanol content, but it gives you a rough idea. You can't always expect perfection when you're getting it out of a pump, but for an NA setup like this, a little bit of fluctuation is totally fine. We're gonna be running it a little bit rich to be safe anyways. So with that said, let's take our Tough Jug with our ripper cap, go on over to our fuel filler, and see how it goes. So like I was saying, just stick it into the nozzle, push down, and it'll drain nice and smooth. When you're done, pull it up, spill free. Now the Holley comes preset. As soon as you turn on the ECU, it'll prime the fuel pump for about 5 seconds. I'm gonna leave it just like that for now. I don't wanna change anything. Let it run for 5 seconds, turn it off. Let it run for 5 seconds, turn it off. And we'll do that a few times to A, check for leaks, let it slowly build pressure. I don't wanna have it run for like 10, 15, 20 seconds at full PSI, and then we find a leak and it just goes everywhere. So we'll do it in these little small 5-second stints and just see how it goes. And as soon as we turn on power, it will start priming. Okay, so I've gone ahead and primed it 3 times now. It's building pressure. I may need to add a few more gallons in there, but we are getting fuel pressure. It's throughout the whole system. I've gone over every single connection, every single O-ring. Everything is completely dry and leak free. I'm gonna go back into the parameters of the fuel pump, have it run for probably 20 or 30 seconds. And I'm gonna set our pressure here at 60 PSI. We're not gonna be running a vacuum source to our fuel pressure regulator. So per Holley's instructions, we're gonna set it at 60 PSI, and that'll be enough throughout the entire board. Again, we're just naturally aspirated here, so it's not really anything too technical. So we'll go into our little handheld here, go to tuning, system, fuel pump prime 5 seconds. We're gonna go ahead and make this 15 seconds. And we'll see how that goes. We'll be able to get a display with the pump running and see what we're actually making. Off, and turn it back on. We should get 15 seconds of prime now. Okay, so we're making about 46 PSI. So we need to turn the fuel pressure up to 60. I've gone ahead and come to our Nuke Performance fuel regulator, loosened the set screw, and gave this a few turns, and I think I got it pretty much dialed right at 60 PSI now. Perfect. All right, almost ready to fire up. I did my power steering lines because the belt's connected to the pump. I didn't want to run it dry. So the power steering system is all good to go. I got Ryan here helping out for the first start. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm going to prime the oil system one more time, get it nice and lubricated. I'll plug the injectors back in and see what happens. All right, here we go. Fired right up. All right, take E82. Sick, let's go, dude.
Hell yeah.
Nasty. All right. All right, guys, it fired right up. Sounds sick. Super pumped on it. As you saw, we were messing with the throttle body a little bit. I could not get the idle to stabilize. It was either too low, it was too high. I shortly realized that our AFRs were all over the place. It was 30 and 15 and 10 and 20 and 30. And I've had this happen before on the E30, and the problem is the O2 sensor is too close to the outside air, and it's not reading just exhaust gases, so it does not know what to do. It thinks it's super lean and super rich, and so this thing would not stabilize at all. So obviously we haven't made our full exhaust for this yet. That's next on the agenda, but I want to be able to let this thing warm up, get up the temperature, cycle all the fluids, make sure everything's all good. So I got an extra piece of stainless, clamped it on the end of the exhaust just so we had a little bit more length on there, and hopefully the AFRs will actually read stable and this thing will idle smooth, start collecting some data on it. So anyways, let's start it up, see how it sounds when it's actually reading the amount of fuel that it's getting, and we'll let it get up to temp, make sure everything's working good. All right, fire and hold. Well, I don't know if you guys can tell in the video, but adding that extra foot to the exhaust pipe fixed all the problems. It was so much smoother. The AFRs were stable. Everything looked great. Got it up to operating temperature. The fans kicked on. Still no leaks. Went ahead and shut it off, and I would call that a huge win for the first start. Now, I don't have any axles or wheels yet. Those are coming soon, so I can't put the car on the ground to drive it, but that is all we need to be able to actually start driving this thing, getting it on the dyno and getting it all tuned so we can start shredding. But the next thing on the agenda is going to be our exhaust. We got a pretty cool design that we're going to whip up for this thing. Should sound really nice, but you guys will see that here in the next video. Thank you for watching this one. If you guys have followed the series this far, I truly appreciate it. It's been pretty dragged out. There's been a lot of episodes, but I really wanted to cover everything that's been done. So this is a huge milestone. Like I said, I'll take it as a big win. Nothing failed, nothing leaked. We like that. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Later.